Welcome to this edition of the Fire Marshal's Corner. I'm your host, Richard Blankenship. Now, the summer's over for 2017. We hope that you had a safe and an enjoyable vacation year. We just had this celebration or an anniversary of the 9/11. A lot of people, were doing things over the years, but the Fire Marshal's office would like just take a couple minutes, or a couple seconds rather, just to do a little prayer for those who lost their lives in 9/11. And also for the people in Florida and Texas for the troubles that they're going through now. And hopefully their recovery will be much successful and things can get back to normal. So just a moment of silence, please. Okay, what I want to talk about today is fire extinguishers. We see them hanging on the walls where we work. You might have one in your kitchen. You see them at schools, shopping centers, and sometimes we just walk by them and don't really pay attention to what they are. And sometimes when we need to use those things, we don't understand them. So today I just want to discuss with you a little bit about fire extinguishers and how to work these things. And at the end of the show today, we will have a live demonstration of how to use fire extinguishers. But one of the things you have to understand is that all fires start small. And by keeping them small, that's what we want to do. Every household should have a 2.5 pound little extinguisher about that high. It can be red or white. It's called an ABC extinguisher. And I'll briefly discuss you in a few minutes about what the ABC means. But if you ever have a fire, you have to have three things. You have to have a fuel source, you have to have heat, and you have to have oxygen to be able to have a fire. And then these three things get together, they have a chemical reaction, and then we have fire. If you remove any one of these three from the fire triangle, you cannot have a fire. So what we want to do, we want to talk about the classes of fire. There's a Class A fire, which is ordinary combustion, such as wood, paper, trash, those kind of things. There's a Class B fire, which is flammable liquids, like your cooking oils when you cook on the stove, those kind of things. A Class C is what we call energized electrical equipment, okay? The ABC extinguisher can work on all three of these fires. One of the things you don't want to do is you don't want to put like a Class A extinguisher only on flammable liquids. It just doesn't work, or you don't want to put it on an electrical energized piece of equipment. So you need to have an understanding. Once in a while, just stop and look at these things. There's a gauge on it. It tells you if the pressure's good or not. If it's in the green, it's good to go. If it's in the red, then it's not. Make sure it has a pin in the handle. Somebody didn't play with it, disperse all the content somewhere, and then put it back. That's why we require that every year, all the fire extinguishers around have to have annual testing. It means that the people come in from a company, they dump the old stuff out, put new stuff in, pressurize it, and put it back on, and then they put a tag on it that it's been inspected. But like I said, you walk around, just pick them up once in a while and look at them. Okay, they're not that big of a deal, but one of the things they do, they help us keep the fire small. And by doing that, keeping the fire small, it's going to do a few things for us. It's going to help us with life safety, that we're not going to get anybody killed in a fire. And it's going to protect life and property, just like I said, protecting somebody from getting hurt or killed. And it's going to protect the property. It'll have less damage, and that's what we want. The other thing is you have to know how to use this thing. You know the classes are, we just discussed that, Class A, B, C, and D. And if you ever look at a fire extinguisher on the bottom, they have a little chart. They have a little green chart, a blue, and a red. The green is A, which it'll show you wood and paper. B will show you a flammable liquid, which is red. And the blue is going to show, the blue is the flammable liquid, and the red is going to show you the electrical energy equipment, like a motor or something in that nature. So the thing you have to do when you pick the fire extinguisher up, you have to know this fire extinguisher will work on that. Most of the places have an ABC extinguisher. That way they can use it on any type of fire. That way you don't have 5 or 6 different extinguishers laying around, one for A, one for B, one for C, and so on. So they just have what they call a Class ABC. And everybody, like I said, should have one of those in your residence. And when you get this thing, you take it out of its container. It could be on a box, on a wall, or it could just be hanging there. You pick it up, and the thing that you have to remember to use the fire extinguisher is called PASS. P-A-S-S. You get the extinguisher, and you'll see this today when we do the demonstration. You pull the pin, it has a pin in it, you pull the pin. It has a nozzle on it. It's a little rubber hose on it, it has a little nozzle on it, and you'll pull it, you'll aim it at the fire. You'll squeeze, and as you squeeze, you sweep. You'll go back and forth like this until the fire goes out. Once you knock the fire down, you always back away from the fire. Never turn your back on the fire. If you notice in a couple of shows previous, we did a live burn with using a stove and flammable liquids. And when we extinguished the fire went out. Once we backed up, it lit off again. Now what happens is when you use these extinguishers, we talked about the fire triangle, the heat and fuel. Now what these extinguishers do is they're going to remove some of these products. Okay, so if you have some wood and trash and stuff like that, you got the paper and all burning, and what you're going to do is once you put the stuff on, it's going to cover it up, it's going to cut the air off of it, it's going to smother it. And that's pretty much what we're doing with this powder. We're trying to put a cake of stuff over it. It's just a powder that's inside, it's under pressure. We're going to cover this up, and what that's going to do for us, one, it's going to cool the heat, which is going to help us determine or the fire to go out, I'm sorry. And then the other, it's going to cover it and cut the oxygen off of it. Or once we do that, we can kind of split the wood and trash away and kind of take the heat source away from it, or the fuel. That's what you're trying to do. Same thing with flammable liquids. Once you sweep back and forth, like I said, and that's the one you definitely want to make sure that you back up on, because they can flash over on you, because the container that it's setting in can still be hot. And if it has any break in that chemical at all, it's going to light off again. So always back away. So again, like I said, we're going to remove the fuel or the heat or the oxygen, and when we use them fire extinguishers to do that, we're not going to have a fire any longer. No matter how big the fire is or how small the fire is, you always contact 911, let the fire department come out and let them look at it and let them determine, yeah, yes, the fire is out, you're good to go. Because sometimes you don't think if it's on top of a stove, fire can get up inside your vents on your overhood system on your stove, or it can get something in the back and catch on fire in the back behind the stove. The next thing you get fire behind the cabinets, you wouldn't even know it until later on that day or that night, and that's not the time you want to figure that out. So like I said, when you see the demonstration today, we have a live prop that will set on fire, and then we'll use the fire extinguisher to extinguish the fire and give you an opportunity to see exactly how this works. Again, I can't stress how important it is, no matter how small or big the fire is, make sure you contact 911. The other thing I'm going to talk about today is, I know we talk about this every time we do the Fire Marshal's Corner, but it's a big deal to me, it's very important, it's smoke alarms. You know, you have a smoke alarm, it's like having a firefighter and he has 24/7, 365. That this guy, he's going to sit there, if something happens, he's going to make a noise to wake you up and get you out of the house. That's the whole thing for smoke detectors, is early activation. To be able to get out of the house in a sufficient time. But we're finding out when we do our inspections here in the city, we're finding out that smoke detectors were taken down, the batteries have been removed, and even some of the ones that have the plug in that are electric, they unplug them and take them down. Unacceptable. I know sometimes when you cook, it gets a little irritating that they beep, but you know what? That's telling you they're doing the job. In 2018, they recommended that all 9-volt battery smoke alarms be replaced with the 10-year sealed lithium batteries. What that means is it comes in like 3 sections. It'll have a base that you mount on your ceiling or on your wall. It'll have on the back, you flip it over, it has a place where you put your lithium battery in. Once you put that in, it stays in, you can't get it out, and then it has a smoke detector itself. And all you gotta do is twist it and lock in place. Now there's all different kinds, some you can lock in place, some are already together, and all you gotta do is put them up. So they wanna replace that, because over the years, we're finding that we're having a large number of fire deaths throughout this country and in this state. And when they come to find out what's going on, one, like I said, they didn't have an operating smoke alarm, or they didn't have a smoke alarm at all. And that's not what we want. The lower we can bring that fire death count down in this country, that's what we want to do. But you, the citizens around our areas and through this country and whatever, you have to help us a little bit too. You have to make sure that you check it monthly. When you put the 10-year seal unit up on the wall or the ceiling, the only thing you have to do to that thing is once a month is check it, make sure it works. And some of our 10-year smoke alarms, when you cook, it has a sensor that you can push. It won't let it beep for 30 or 40 seconds, then it'll beep again. So that way you don't have to keep taking it down all the time because every time you cook. But that's just one of those things that happen. But you gotta have an operating smoke alarm in your home. One, it's required by the state. It's a state law to have that. But we need to think, man, I can have a firefighter in my house for $20, and the thing is, you have to have one on each level. Each level upstairs on the top floor where the bedrooms are, close to the bedrooms, one down in the hallway downstairs, and then one in the basement. Okay, you want to have that. And now we're requiring to have smoke detectors in the bedrooms. One of the things that we do, we teach children to sleep with the doors closed. And the old saying is you want to make sure that you can hear the beep where you sleep. So you need to practice that. You know, a lot of things, you know, you'll see the fire department come out on a fire, and the first thing they do is they put the hose down in the street, and then they pull the hose through the front door. They got all their stuff on. That's because that's what they're supposed to do. That's what they're trained to do. They do it on every call. No matter if they see a fire or smoke or nothing, that's repetition. And if you keep doing this every month, checking it, practicing it, you'll keep doing that. That's why they do what they do. So when the real deal hits, it ain't nothing new. Now what you can do, this theme for this year for fire prevention is have an escape plan. Every home should have an escape plan. We all know how to get out of the house. We get up every morning. I got up this morning, put my clothes on, got dressed, walked right down the steps and right at the door. Piece of cake. Everybody does that every day. We go to school, do the same thing. Put smoke in there where you can't see, you can't breathe. It's a totally different ball game. Now, what I tell people to do is once a month or once every couple months, get your family together, simulate a fire, and have them come out, test it, see how long it takes them to get out of the house, that smoke detector goes off. And then put them back in the same spot, put blindfolds on them, see how long it takes you to get out. And then once you get out of the house, make sure you stay out of the house. So again, I can't stress how important it is to have an operating smoke alarm in your house. Please make sure you have that. When you change over from the 9-volt to the 10-year, if you can't get up and put it up on the ceiling or do it because of some limitations, contact your local fire department, or you can contact the city fire marshal's office, and we'll be happy to come out there and take care of that. I know our first responders, fire and EMS, a lot of times when they go out on medical calls or something else, they're in your house, a lot of times they'll check your smoke alarms just to make sure you have a functional smoke alarm. And if you don't, they won't leave until they get one in there because they carry them and they want to make sure that everybody has one. So again, until this law takes effect, now we know next month here or so, we're going to be changing the clocks again. And that's our theme all the time. Change your clock, change your batteries. So that's twice a year that your batteries get changed in your smoke alarms. And again, if you can't do that, feel free to give us a call and we will take care of that for you. The other thing I want to mention, a lot of times now the school is in session. Please watch out for the children. There's a state law saying, you know, you got to be 200 feet behind the bus when you approach it or 200 feet from the front when you approach it. You have to give them some distance. A lot of times you'll see on the bus the yellow lights will flash first and then the red ones will come on. Children, man, when they get out of school, all they want to do is go home and play. The first thing they do is when they get off that bus, they run across the street. Please be aware of your surroundings. Any school zones, they're marked a lot of places in school. They'll say school zone from here to here. Pay attention to that. Also, if you're traveling in the city of Laurel or this fine state, please, please watch out for our first responders. That's our police officers, our fire department, our EMS. And also, please look after our other public officials you might see on the road. Or a lot of times we'll have our people from Public Works that are out here taking care of the streets for us, getting rid of our trash for us. Please, if you see a trash truck, take your time. If you got to go around it, please go around it slow. Because a lot of times these guys are cutting the front, they can't hear you or see you. We don't want to get anybody hit. So please, again, watch out for our people. And our safety tip for today, we just talked a little bit about the issues in Florida and Texas with the flooding and stuff like that. The city of Laurel from the emergency made an emergency preparedness guide. for our citizens here in the city. If you would like a copy of this, you can stop by City Hall and pick one up. It's got a tremendous amount of information that can help you. I mean, it's got things in there about if you see something that don't look right, you call somebody. It tells you how to make a plan for so many days that you might not have water or food. Tells you what you need. It has a place in here that you can put in your medical information. So if something happens and we can find that, it can tell us, you know, if you're diabetic or you're taking these kind of pills or whatever the case may be. So if you want one of these books, like I said, it has all kind of pertinent information in here for you. It's a real good book. They put a lot of effort into this. And again, it comes from the city of Laurel. And we would definitely say we got plenty of these. We would love for you to have one. Please stop by and pick one up. As you can see here, we have a prop that we use to show demonstration of how to use a fire extinguisher. It's got some heat coming off of it. It's operated by gas. And we can make this thing keep burning. If you do not use the fire extinguisher properly, it'll keep burning until you do. We talked about the fire extinguisher. This is the demo fire extinguisher. The only thing it doesn't have here on this, it doesn't have the little symbols on the bottom saying ABC. But they're still the same function. You got your container. It's got information on it, what it is, what type of extinguisher. You got a gauge. There's 3 gauges. What I'm on this night was 1 gauge with 3 markings on it. The one side says discharge. It means it's empty. Somebody used it and it hasn't been refilled. And then here it says overcharge. We don't want to overcharge them. There's a green thing in the middle. This one, once the powder's in, they put air in it. They'll bring it up to that green line and put it back in service. Now, most places, businesses and stuff like that have a contractor that's under their contract that'll come out once a year. And every year, these things should be flushed out, refilled, and then put air back in them and then put them back on the thing. Once they do that, they'll put a tag on it with the year and the date that it was done. So every year, they're supposed to do that. Okay, now we're going to do our demonstration part of using the fire extinguisher. He's going to demonstrate the PASS thing, P-A-S-S. He's going to pull the pin, he's going to aim at the fire, he's going to squeeze, and as he's squeezing the nozzle or the handle, he's going to sweep it to go back and forth to make sure that the powder will cover up that fuel like now. Right now we have water in here. And as you're squeezing, he can walk forward. And he did the same thing. He just kept going back and forth and back and forth. And you notice he started out a little bit. They have limitations on them as how far that stuff will come out. So you don't want to get right up on it. If this was a flammable liquids fire as well, you don't want to put the nozzle down into that. You do that, it's going to flare up. The fire's going to get bigger. This is something like a 10-year smoke. This is a 10-year. This is what it looks like. Remember, you have to, when you purchase these things, they'll have a date on them when they were made. That's the date you want to go by, not the date that you purchased the smoke alarm. Okay, these things could have been on the shelf for a year or 2 years, who knows? And when you get it, look at the date. And that's the date you want to go from 10 years on, the date it was made. And like this one here, it's pretty, you know, it has a button, so if we need to test it, do that. It comes in like 3 pieces. This is the base. This is what you mount on the wall or on the ceiling. If you put it on the ceiling, that's good. If you put it on the wall, bring it down about 12 to 16 inches. If you ever notice in your house, and everybody has them, they get cobwebs in the corner. That's because there's no air circulating in that part of the ceiling. So if you have it too high, there's a chance that this won't pick up the smoke. If you look in the back here, this battery's already been in place, so we can't take it out. It has a date. You can mark on that date when it was put down, when you turned it on. But I would put the date that it was on that box. Sometimes they're on the battery, they might be on the box. Once the plate is mounted, once you put this in, we're good to go for 10 years. When you purchase these things, they'll give you a date when they were made. That's the date that you want to go by, not the date that you purchased it. Like I said, these things could be sitting on the shelf for a little while, okay? Now, like I said, 2018, they're probably not set on the shelf as long because they're requiring now people to go with the 10-year lithium battery. That's what this is. Now, I'm not going to tell you they're not going to malfunction. Sometimes they fail. If something happens, they keep chirping and chirping and chirping, there's something wrong with it, take it back to wherever you got it, and they'll replace it for nothing and give you a new one. But always check that date. And then once you get everything, the battery's pushed in place, the base plate is mounted, put it in, twist it, lock, and then we always want to check it and make sure. Push the button, and there you go. The other thing is, the only thing you have to do to this thing is, once a month, push that button. Make sure it's functional. Like I told you, you have to be responsible for yourself and your family. You have to make sure you do that. Okay, like I said, sometimes when our fire and EMS personnel comes into your house, maybe for an EMS call or to help you do something, they'll probably check that just to make sure it's functional. But just in case something happens they don't, make sure you check it monthly. Like I said, I'd like to thank you for viewing our show this month. I also like to thank my co-workers, Smokey and Pierre, for coming out, giving us a hand setting this up. It does take a little time and effort to set this up so we can use it. But again, like I said, any organization that's out there, you'd like to have some training on this, we'll be happy to do that for you. You just got to call and let us know. And I said you can contact the Fire Marshal's office. Again, the number is 301-725-5300 and ask for the Fire Marshal's office, and then we can set up a date and do this. We went over a lot of good information. And if you got any questions on any of that, you can use that same number to contact the Fire Marshal's office, and we definitely can explain it to you. And again, I thank you for viewing our show. I know a lot of you people are watching it because I hear people with comments, and that makes me feel good that the people are definitely watching it and let me know when they do that. And we'll see you the next time on the Fire Marshal's Corner.